All right, we are live.
Hey, welcome everyone. This is another episode of Secular Jihadists for a Muslim Enlightenment. And this is our public, open to all, ask us anything episode. So we're going to have two of these because these are very popular, right, Armin? They're popular, right?
Well, yes, of
Yeah,
course.
they're very popular. So what happens is that, this is what we're going to do. And this is me. And there's just so much stuff going on. We can't, well, it's just really interesting. These are always fun.
All
We
right,
always get
so
to connect.
ask your questions in the live chat so we could answer them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what?
So yes, we
While
already
we're
have
doing
a.
that, I just want to tell you that if you want to watch the other stuff that we do you want to do the patron thing this time, the Patreon thing?
Oh yes, go ahead.
Oh, okay, so yes, if you this is Secular Jihadists for Muslim Enlightenment. It's a podcast. We have around 5 episodes a month. If you want to watch live videos and you want to ask questions and participate like the way that you are right now, please do take a second or a minute to go to patreon.com/sjme, where you can become a patron for as little as $1 a month, and you get 5 episodes a month, interviews with all kinds of really interesting people, and you get to participate, ask your questions, and get a whole bunch of other perks too. So
Yes.
do check it out.
So yes, we do we do two public live streams, but we also have private live streams on specific topics where only our patrons get to go live with us, and we answer your patron questions there. Oh, by the way, as a patron, you could also send us questions ahead of time. Like, let's say
Mm-hmm.
we have a live stream. Let's say, for example, on Iran elections or Israel and Palestine or whatever. What you could do is like, oh, I can't join you guys live, but I'm a Patreon. I want my questions answered. On Patreon, we make it so that you get to post your comments ahead of times, and we make sure that if you're a Patreon, your questions get answered. Okay, cool. All right. This guy is like I think a troll. I'm gonna put him on timeout.
Who?
All right, cool. Never mind. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, so here's actually we were talking about this, not this, but like something close to this before we went live. We should talk about it. So, I mean, the way the question is formed makes it seem like so the question comes from Afif Khaja says, can you guys talk about the situation of Uyghur Muslims in China and the rise of ISIS in Africa? I mean, I don't know about like you make it seem like we haven't been speaking about the situation of Uyghur Muslims in China. I think
Mm-hmm.
like I could make your question more interesting by talk change it a little bit by talking about why Muslims in China on a per capita basis seem to get less attention than Muslims that are
Gaza
in Gaza, right?
or anywhere else?
Muslims,
Yeah.
or yeah, well, not
Well,
anywhere else.
well,
Yeah, I
when you
mean,
talk about the Uyghur Muslims in China, honestly, Uyghur Muslims in China and Black Muslims in Africa really get the least amount of attention from the news media. Like Uyghur Muslims
right.
in China are currently in concentration camps.
Hmm.
Uyghur Muslims, and Black Muslims in Africa, there's 500,000 of them that were killed by Omar al-Bashir, for example, in who was an Arab Muslim killing Black Muslims, Darfur, Sudan. I mean, it's just not. It doesn't get that kind of attention. While at the same time, when things that are happening in Gaza, it just gets a lot more attention. And it's a good question. Why does that happen? What's your theory?
Well, I heard your theory first, but I have my different theory. But your theory was anti-Semitism. It's anti-Semitism. Yeah.
Well, my theory is that I think that when Israel does something to Muslims, it's very different, and it gets a lot more attention than when the Chinese do, or when Arabs do, or when anybody else does, really. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Israel is Jewish. So whenever you have a Jewish person doing it, I think if the person who ran Sudan, the president, was a Jewish man, and he was doing this to Muslims, then
Hmm.
it would just get a lot more attention than this does. I think that's yeah.
Right. Well, if your theory is true, then the anti-Chinese sentiments, bigotry, should also be used like as a motivation for people. Okay, so here's the thing: we are not saying that all people who care about Muslims and Palestinians are anti-Semitic. We care about them. We also fight for them. And we are also not suggesting, for some people might be new here, so they might not understand where we're coming from. We're also not suggesting that the people who are defending Muslims in China, that they have anti-Chinese, they're anti-Chinese bigots. But obviously, some, you know, people who are anti-Chinese bigot or anti-Semitic are going to take advantage of these forms of activism for a different agendas. Right. So, for example, when we criticize Israel, or when we Israel's government, or when we criticize the CCP, we're not being bigots, but we know that some people who are bigots are going to try to jump on this bandwagon, right?
Mm.
So Ali, when you say like you think the reason why the Muslims in Palestine get more attention is probably because of anti-Semitic views compared to Muslims in China. Well, what about anti-Chinese bigots? Wouldn't that,
Because it's
also?
just it's not as much of a thing. Anti-Chinese bigotry is not something that is age old and scripture codified. I mean, there is a religious conflict there. I mean, you can break it down any way. You can say that okay, a lot of the Israelis are secular, Fatah secular. They're trying to work with it. It's not a religious conflict anymore. It's political. It's geographical. But ultimately, the biggest issues that are happening with it, right? One is this whole we've got to take over all the land and expand settlements. That's a purely religious thing. The fact that Hamas wants to get rid of
It's
Israel,
not
that's a
purely
religious thing.
religious.
The settlements thing is almost entirely religious. There's no secular argument for a settlement expansion in that region. And the people who are doing it, who are the people who are doing it? Are they the secular Jews doing it? No, it's the ultra orthodox. Look,
Okay,
let me get to the Chinese thing.
we're getting off topic. Yeah, I have
Yeah,
my own views
the
on.
Chinese anti-China bigotry is just not. First of all, there isn't a whole lot because China really helps a lot of Muslim countries, right? Like Pakistan gets a lot of help from China. All of these people who are the most vocal against Israel, right? They like China. They like what China is doing. They're anti-American and they think that China is a good sort of balance to the U.S. And they like it that way. So that's one aspect. The other thing is like anti-Chinese bigotry is just not a thing in Abrahamic religious history the way that anti-Jewish bigotry is. I mean, it's just a, you know.
Okay. My view is because when it comes to being, it's not just that people seem to care more about Muslims in Palestine than Muslims in China. I think the whole Palestine-Israel thing. Can you reduce my audio because I'm hearing echo? Tell me in the
Mm-hmm.
live chat if you guys are hearing echo as well. I think like it has become such a powerful way of signaling which tribe you belong to, right? And so in a way that the Chinese position hasn't become, maybe not yet, maybe it will become one, right? Well, actually no, because people are more unanimously anti-China, anti-CCP, not anti-China, anti-CCP. Sorry, I shouldn't use those interchangeably, but more unanimously, it's only a bunch of like commie tankies who are like make excuses for CCP's actions against Muslims in China. In that way, it's not a powerful way for you to signal to the world that whether you're lefty or you're right or you're like anti-Israel or anti-Palestine. Like these have become ways for you to signal which tribe you have belong to, right? So it's not necessarily like a lot of people say, why do so many care about Israel-Palestine issues? It's not much of it is not because they care about Israelis or because they care about the Palestinians. Much of it is because Israel and Palestine has become such a powerful narrative in people's minds as a way to be like taking sides the way that they take sides in like a football in a soccer match, or and to say I'm team A or I'm team B, and to signal to your own tribe that hey, I'm a loyal um, tribe member, and I look at me signaling so hard that I belong to this tribe, And I identify, like, one of the most powerful way for you to signal that you belong to a tribe is to identify who's the enemy of your tribe, who's not tribe A, who's tribe B, and you signal that you are a valued member as a tribe by how strongly you oppose the member of the other tribe and how aggressively you oppose the member of the other tribe. That's how you signal to your tribe, to the members of your tribe, that you're a valued member, right? So because the Israel-Palestine thing has become a very loud signal, people like signals that are louder than other ones, that they could use easily to signal to their fellow tribe members that, hey, I'm one of you, because they want to belong, they want to be accepted, they want to feel like they are part of something important, and they are a valued member. So the reason why they don't do that with the Chinese Muslims is because that hasn't been used as a way, as a powerful, it hasn't been yet developed as a narrative that you could use for signaling to your tribe that you belong to them, right? So again, it's not about saving the actual people, it's about you feeling that you belong somewhere, right? So that's my theory. What do you think about that?
I think it's okay. I think it's a little more complex. I think what you have is, I
Of course it's more complex. Like, what do you want me to do? Spend like another
yeah, I think it's more so. I think the anti-Semitism thing, just going up there, it's just there are a lot of reasons. There are a lot of reasons. Where I think the roots of this conflict were basically Jewish people and Muslim people. And I'm not saying, look, listen, there's a lot of countries that came about for stupid reasons. Okay, the U.S. is one of them. Israel is one of them. Pakistan is one of them. They all came about for really stupid reasons. Like, the Zionism is a dumb reason to found a country. Like, the Muslim state, we need a separate Muslim state, is a dumb reason to found a country. And to displace people who are there, like whether it's the Native Americans or what, like that's
You're
happened.
getting off topic.
I know, no, there's
We were
loads of,
talking about something else.
yeah, yeah. I know.
I like how you say, right after you said it's more complicated than what I said, then you said, well, it's simply anti-Semitic views. Right after you said it's more complicated.
Yeah, I just think no, what you said, I don't disagree with that. I think there's a lot of
Right.
reasons. I'm just saying that there's the way that these places are founded, the fact that it's a Jewish state. I mean, these are things that I just grew up hearing. I've heard directly from people why Gaza matters to them. They're like, this is a problem every time. It's at least when I was in Saudi Arabia, when I was in Pakistan, even when I hear people from there talk over here in Canada, like, it always comes down to, well, Israel is doing this. It's the Jews. They control the media. Pakistani foreign minister went on TV, went on CNN, was talking about that. They control the media. They've got deep pockets. Like, he said it very, very straightforwardly. These are tropes that are embedded in there. They don't even know that these are anti-Semitic tropes. So, it's, I don't know. That's kind of, for me, it's an Occam's razor kind of thing.
It's very interesting because what you said is partly, it works within my hypothesis.
It
because
does.
anti-Semitic views is also a signaling mechanism,
It is.
So anyway.
Sure.
And the reason, so a reason people use those tropes without recognizing that trope is because people just want to find the lines that people use to belong to that group without knowing the history and the background behind those lines. And that's why it's so easy to just like wear those lines as like clothes to just as a signaling technique.
But it's just there is, I don't see the parallel with the anti-Chinese bigotry. That's what I'm saying, even though I'm sure that exists. But let's move on. We're still on the first questions, 15 minutes. Husseini is asking, what is your thoughts on the Ahmadiyya view on the Quran? They seem to have adopted a peaceful stance on jihad and on Muhammad's character. Do you see a basis for this, or is this just sugarcoating? It's just sugarcoating. I mean, the Ahmadiyya have to go through a lot of, I've shown a lot of, what they have to go through is terrible. There's a form of apartheid in Pakistan that's Ahmadiyya apartheid, right? That's what they're doing. They're completely, they're segregating them from the rest of society. They're making them targets for killings and really, really horrific things. It's a community under persecution. But when it comes to the actual religious beliefs, it is just sugarcoating. It's an early form of reform, which is we've talked about here a lot. So everything that, say Majid Nawaz and Rahil Raza and all of these people want to talk about, the Ahmadis were doing this a long time ago. They were reinterpreting these verses, and kudos to them. They had a head start on it, but ultimately, it's just, you've got bullshit and you got bullshit light. This is bullshit light.
All right. Here's the next question, and I actually have a problem with the way this question is phrased. Super Cuber Tech is asking, what is the best argument that ultimately proved that religion of Islam false in your opinion? Okay, two things. For you to prove something false, somebody had to have actually made an argument, like make an argument for why it's true, right? When it comes to Islam, all you have is claims. Like, you can't really unprove something that has never been proven. You know what I mean? And also, at the end of the day, the reason why we don't believe in Islam is not unique to Islam. It's the same as every other religion. It's a bunch of claims with nothing to back it up. All we need to say is that there has been nothing to prove Islam true. And it's the same thing with every other religion. So it's not really unique about it. The reason why we don't agree, and the thing is that the people that say, like, well, Islam teaches you this and teaches you that, and that's horrible. This is horrible. I mean, at the end of the day, if they had proof for Allah and the Quran being His word, it didn't really matter how horrible it is. If it's God's words, and like we get like, okay, it seems horrible, but they have proof that there's a God, and they have proof that these are the words. Like, the fact that it's horrible and anti-human and anti-this and that, really doesn't, if there is a God, well, and he decides what's good, well, these are what he's saying is good, right? So
Yeah.
those are not really arguments for disproving Islam. The arguments against us believing in Islam is because there is no arguments for Islam. Because the lack of arguments for Islam is enough for you to completely dismiss that religion and every other religion.
Yeah. I'm just going to add that every religion, like they say, well, these are religious claims. They're not. They're scientific claims. If you're saying that there is something that created the universe and then sent down, there's a messenger that came down who could communicate with this power, and then they wrote a book, and this book was written by these are all scientific claims, like how the sun was made, how the moon was made, the moon was split in half, a horse flew up to heaven, a virgin gave birth. These are all scientific claims. Scientific claims require evidence, and there's no evidence. So the same thing that, yeah.
What you're saying, some people might not understand what you mean. Okay, so let me just clarify, because when Ali says they are scientific claim, that it doesn't mean that they're, like, I know what Ali means, but a lot of people don't know what you're talking about. He's not saying that they are claims that are backed up by science. What he's saying is that they are claims that is about the nature of the universe. It's making claims about how nature works. So they are claims that are not true. They don't have any proof, but because they're trying to come within the realm of science, then they have to know that they're not going to survive. Like, you cannot separate them from scientific claims. Like, you can't be like, oh, these are a completely different territory. No, they are making claims about the natural universe, so they have entered the realm of science, and they can be crushed because they have entered our realm of science, and so now you want to play this
they
game,
have to be held to the same standards
of crushed.
So they have to be held to the same standards of rigor and scrutiny as any other scientific claim. Right. And they can't be. They can't even remotely.
Yeah. No, the reason why I say that, Ali, because when you say they are scientific claims, people might think like you're saying, oh, they're good claims and claims with scientific backing.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
You're just saying no. What you're saying is that they're making claims about the natural world.
About the natural world, yeah.
Yes. All right. Next question.
Fawad Ali is asking, did you hear Richard Dawkins' comments about it being immoral to bring a baby with Down syndrome into the world? Do you agree with him? I'll go first. I don't think it's immoral. I think it's kind of, I think it's a little stretch too far to say that somebody who decides to have a child with Down syndrome is being immoral, because I think it's a debatable question. There's a lot of arguments for it. I think it's irresponsible. I think it's probably not the smartest thing to do. I think there are many other things. I wouldn't call it immoral, though. So I disagree with him when he says it's immoral. I don't think it's fair. I think it might be a little selfish. It's not fair.
I mean,
To
these are just different ways of saying immoral.
No, they're not. You can be irresponsible and not be immoral.
Selfish. You said selfish.
You can be selfish and not be immoral. We're all selfish. Like, what do you want me to do? If I
What do you
treat
mean by
my
immoral then?
huh?
What do you mean by immoral then?
Immoral, I think, is in the intentional an intention to do something that's not good.
If
Right?
you
It's a
if you
very
act
strong
with,
word for this.
I know, but when you say somebody's being selfish, you mean like they're caring about their own self-interest.
No, I don't think
What?
we think of selfish as a bad thing. But if I have if
Well,
there's a
everything is
fire,
selfish.
if there's a fire in a
You have to
school and I
define our
go in
terms.
and my kid is in the school and there are 5 other kids in the school
All
and
right,
I can only save one,
we're getting off track. Do you
I'll be
think that
selfish and save my kid, but that's not
that's
immoral.
we're getting off track? Do you think a kid with Down syndrome can be happy?
Yeah, that's sure. Why not?
So why is it wrong to have a kid with Down syndrome? I don't understand.
Well,
Why is it
because
selfish?
they're happy, but
Why is it irresponsible? They're happy what?
Hmm?
They're
Well, I
happy
mean,
what?
they can be happy once you have a child with Down syndrome. You know, you're gonna love that child. You're gonna have a lot of
No, I'm not talking about you. Can they be happy?
yeah. I mean, they're gonna be happy, but they're gonna suffer. Every living thing can be
overall, can they have a net positive, a life that was more happy than sad? Can they have a life filled with more happiness than misery? A kid with Down syndrome.
yeah. Well, yeah, of course they can.
So what's wrong with it? I don't understand.
Because I don't think it's just about happiness and misery. I think you have a shortened.
Everything. No.
Yeah, but listen, it's the same thing. If you have
I'm
Huntington's chorea,
utilitarian. Of course, I care about all.
Huntington's chorea is a devastating neurological disease that is going to hit you if you have the gene for it. It's going to hit you when you're 40, no matter what. It's autosomal dominant. Okay, you have medical geneticists. You put things together. You're like, okay, there's a chance that you can get Huntington's chorea, and those two people decide to adopt. They decide not to bring that kid in the world. Can somebody with Huntington's chorea be happy? Yeah, but we brought you into this world. But when you hit 40, you're going to be screwed. That's irresponsible. That's an irresponsible thing to do to anybody.
Can they? Is that the only is it possible to make it so that they're overall happy?
Higher rates of. Well, no, it's higher rates of. They have higher rates of leukemia. They have higher rates of disease. They have shortened lifespan.
Wait, are we talking
they're constantly.
Okay, leukemia you're talking about that people with Down syndrome?
I'm talking about people with Down syndrome. I'm talking about people with Huntington's chorea. With
no, let's focus on Down syndrome. Like overall, these people, can they not is it really that hard to give them a life that is overall
happy?
Yeah.
Is it really hard to give them a life like that? Yes, absolutely. It's very hard because they need constant support.
All right, I guess I don't. My response to this question is that I don't really know the details of what it's like to be Down syndrome, so I don't know the answer to this, and I also don't know Richard Dawkins' arguments for this. So I'm not I have no idea. I don't know. I think I need to do. Ali probably knows a lot more than me. I wish I had Ali's knowledge on this, because my calculation on utilitarianism is probably better than Ali's. But if I wanted to analyze this, but I can't.
Yeah, I don't think it's immoral though. Yeah.
Okay. I don't. I think you're.
And I don't think happiness is the only thing you should measure things by. But let's go on to the next question.
Well, I disagree because I'm a utilitarian. All right, here, let's go.
Okay, DKB is saying, DKB, I like that. I know what you did there. This is an Indian, they see Pakistani thing anyway. Hey, I always wanted to know, where do atheist morals come from in terms of dressing, etc.? Is it subjective based on culture?
In terms of dressing?
Yeah, it's an interesting question.
Okay, here's the thing. I have a problem with the question as usual. Where do atheist morals come from?
Your question is wrong.
Your question is wrong.
Come on.
Why do people act like atheists are the same? What is the word for it?
Yeah, you're right about that. There's no.
My standards for how to decide what's moral or not is probably different from Ali's, right? So the good thing about our standards is not that we have the same standards, but what's good about our standards is actually we think about we try to justify every single action based on the harm. Like, well, here's the thing. Actually, some of us atheists have really bad standards for what's good or bad, right? Some of us are better. The only advantage is that religion is not an influence. Okay, does that make it good? No. Does that make it more likely to be a better standard? Yes. Okay, but just because it makes it more likely to be a better standard because we reduce one source of bad influence, that doesn't mean our moral standards are not influenced by other sources of bad influence, right? You could be like an atheist that is not influenced by religious thinking, so you have a better shot at coming up with a better moral standard. But maybe you had terrible parents that told you that lying and cheating is the best way to get ahead in life, right? So just because you didn't have religion as a source of influence in morality, that doesn't mean now you're going to get it right. It doesn't mean but it just makes it slightly more possible, right? And again, I'm not saying religious people are all getting it wrong, because religious people also are not getting their morality only from religion. They're also influenced by things other than religion, right?
Mm-hmm.
But why do you say, like, I don't, DKB, like, honestly, like, where, like, think about your question. Where do atheist morals come from? You just treated the entire atheist community, all atheist people, as if like they're all act and behave the same. Do you honestly not see the problem with your question here? Right? Maybe you say, like, you guys, where does Armin get his morality from regarding this, and where does Ali get his moral standards from? Like, that would be a legit question. But atheists as a whole, and even if I say, like, well, this is how I calculate it, I'm not speaking for anybody other than myself. Okay. Like, don't make it seem like we're ambassadors for atheists. Like, we don't speak on behalf of other atheists.
Yeah,
anyway,
not all atheists are the same. There's all kinds of atheists. There's Ayn Rand, and then there's Bernie Sanders.
Anyways, should we actually let's fix the question, and I'm gonna fix your question, and I'm gonna answer.
No, let's just move on. Come on, we're gonna have a lot of questions.
Well, you don't want to answer, like, where you get the moral. Okay, where?
Oh, you mean our individuals? Do we dress the way that we do?
Yeah. Well, no. Wait. So, where do atheist morals come from in terms of dressing, etc.? Is it subjective based on culture? Okay. Yeah.
Where do yours come from, Armin?
Mine comes from practicality and very comfort and being able to spend as little time as possible making a decision. So I like it to be, like, very easy, so I don't have to, like, pick like half a second every day to be able to pick what I'm wearing. The less time it takes for me to pick what I'm wearing, the better. That's my standard.
Mm-hmm.
Efficiency is my standard. All right, let's go to the next question.
But why wear anything is, I guess, the question. But come on, you got to wear something.
Okay, I don't understand this question. I don't know.
You don't want to go to the ones in the middle?
Where was that? Maybe because people didn't tag us.
You were at 1108. So there are a couple of good questions. There's one, Michelle Fagus.
Because she didn't tag us. That's why.
She didn't tag us, yeah. On this topic, what are your thoughts on the UNHRC 100 plus resolutions? So there's a lot of resolutions about Israel, while China, Pakistan, and others have none. But this has a complicated answer.
Well, yeah. I mean, the UN was it was its first mission was to deal with this situation. It was founded on dealing with the situation. So maybe it was one reason why I was, like, obsessed over it.
That's why they exist.
That's why they exist. I mean, that was their first mission, and they never managed to fix it. So maybe that's why, like, God damn it, like, we started on this project and we never got around to actually come up with anything to resolve it. So I don't know. What do you think? What's your reason?
Well, yeah, I agree with that. That's one thing, but I mean, the UN is not. I mean, it's a representation of what the world is like, right? I mean, the UN, again, the Human Rights Commission. They've got Saudi Arabia on, the women rights committees, and they've got, China and Iran on human rights committees. Like, they have all kinds of strange things happening at the UN. So it's not. I do think that there's a selective targeting of Israel, but then on the other hand, there is this issue of that, Israel. Well, I mean, yeah, Israel is militarily occupying people against its will. China's got people in concentration camps. Pakistan has apartheid against its own set of apartheid against Ahmadiyya and other religious minorities, and it has a whole range of other problems. But yeah, it's selective. So I don't have an answer on that.
Mm.
I think there's
Yeah.
a definite selective bias.
Yeah, there's some. I mean, the solution is not to have less resolutions on Israel. The solution is to have more
Resolutions on the others. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, like Israel, again, Israel is committing human rights abuses, but then so are all these other places that don't have. And it's not like they'd have none. That's not strictly true, but yeah, you're right. There is an imbalance for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. Music guy, what are your thoughts on the attack of Mufti Abu Layth's home by protesters? Thoughts on this? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's horrible. Do you want to give some background?
Yeah. Well,
quick background.
I'll tell you what I know.
Actually, let me give you a quick.
Yeah. Why don't you do it? Yeah.
Because Mufti Abu Layth is like more of a kind of reformist Mufti, like a. How do you describe Mufti? Like Islamic commentator. So reformist that he's reforming himself out of Islam. I think he's reformed himself out of Islam a while back, but he is. He comments a lot. He has a lot of commentary on things that a lot of Muslims, especially Salafi Muslims, have an issue with. That they think the views he has is completely un-Islamic. But the crap, like, actually, I don't know how to say it without YouTube getting triggered. Okay, so basically the last thing he recently said was a red line for a lot of people. And as soon as he said it, I knew the reaction was going to be like, I told Susanna, like, oof, this thing that he said, I know that there's going to be a reaction more than what you just have seen to what he said before to Mufti Abu Layth. Like, this is, like, I know Mufti Abu Layth had said things that actually challenges Islam as a whole, even though he doesn't admit that, but challenges the way that God is seen in Islam, the way that Muhammad is seen in Islam, the way that Hadith is seen in Islam. But what he said, which shows you where the priorities of Muslims are, he said that maybe like Muslim Palestinians should just leave the whole area, and that this is a lost battle. And that was so triggering. Like, that, to me, I think to many Muslims, that was more blasphemous than even questioning the prophethood of Muhammad. To me, that, I know they don't admit it, but this unites Muslims more than many other things, right? And this is what got a lot of Muslims to show up at his house and attack him, in the house where his two daughters are, right? And that is really scary. And there's videos of this. And there are people who are actually responsible for inciting this. I don't know how much Mohammed Hijab is responsible for this, but he's been implicated. The videos of some people reviewing Mufti Abu Layth's commentary, I was watching them, and I knew that something is going to happen, and I also knew that these people would take the video down once this happens. That's why I downloaded the video before they were taken down. Like, this is how much I knew how predictable their behavior is. I knew what he said was, like, I'm so amazed of how Mufti Abu Layth didn't also. By the way, I'm not victim blaming, but I just know that he's so out of touch with the ummah. Like, he doesn't know how big of a red line he crossed in the eyes. I'm not justifying the red line. It's bull crap that there is such a red line, but for him to just say this casually and not know what he's doing, and what the consequences of this, unjustifiably, please, just because I'm explaining this, please, somebody don't think like I'm justifying it. I just know that this was going to happen. But anyways, I have those. I downloaded those videos because I wanted Susie to also watch them, so I sent it to her. Because, anyways, but the attacks is going to make Mufti Abu Layth reform the only chance it had, because Mufti Abu Layth, again, you have to understand these ideas when they are attacked. And Mufti Abu Layth reform suggestions are so wacky that even Majid Nawaz's reform recommendations pale in comparison. Like, they are so un-Islamic and so they had no chance of becoming, getting any momentum. That's how wacky they were, right? That's how out of touch with Islam, mainstream Islam, Mufti Abu Layth understanding of Islam is. It's just so un-Islamic. But with the attack on him and his family, this might actually give him more momentum, because again, ideas, when you victimize somebody, their ideas become a lot more powerful. It's very interesting because the Salafis who are against him, their ideas 1200 years ago, the reason why their ideas are now mainstream Islam is because their preacher, which is Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he was attacked by the Mu'tazilites and tortured by the Mu'tazilites, and they used to be the wackiest idea of their time, and they didn't, I hypothesize that they didn't have any chance for their ideas to become mainstream Islam. And the reason why their ideas became mainstream Islam is because the so-called rationalist Mu'tazilites attacked and tortured their hero, and their hero became a hero because he didn't give in to the tortures. And then eventually their ideas became mainstream Islam, and Mu'tazilites were disappeared because of that act, right? Probably because of that act. And now, if I don't know, I think Mufti Abu Layth brand of reform might actually have a better shot after these attacks like this. What do you think, Ellie?
No, I agree with everything you're saying. So,
Yeah.
I just wanted, like, one thing I just want to reiterate about that is that the defense of these things isn't that, well, I didn't say this or I didn't say that. I mean, I understand why you have to clear the air. The defense is that, you shouldn't attack my family. This is one of our worst nightmares. This is not something. It actually took me by surprise because I just didn't think that things like this happen as often anymore. But it is absolutely terrifying, and what he went through. And I wish.
I know, Ali, you disagree with this, but I really question Mufti Abu Layth's defense on this, because when he came in, he should have just focused on the fact that he was attacked and his family was attacked. But then he started saying, I know you disagree with this, but I'm just going to say it.
Mm-hmm.
He kept on saying, like, I am against Israel. I am for the Palestinians. I am not a kafir. I think that he shouldn't have said that, because he made it seem like if he was a kafir, let me finish. If he was for Israel and against the Palestinian movement, then these attacks would be justified. Like,
yeah,
I think like his framing of it was not like, these attacks are not justified. It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. Like, he keeps on saying, like, I am a Muslim, I'm not a kafir. Like, what do you mean? Like, so if you were a kafir, these attacks are justified? If you were pro-Israel, these attacks were justified? Stop defending yourself like that. They attacked they attacked your house where your children sleep. That's all you need to say. That's all you need to highlight. But go ahead.
Armin, so wait, now that you brought up that I disagree with it, I'll tell you where I do disagree. It's like, so I agree with the premise of that. I'm just saying there are any number of reasons why people do that. Salman Rushdie, when he was given that fatwa and he had to go into hiding, he came out also and he said, I apologize to this. I shouldn't have done it. I offended the sensibilities. He even said that he accepted Islam again, right? I mean, he did. When people are in those situations and when the lives of your daughters are threatened in that way, right, and they're put in danger, people react in all kinds of different ways, especially in the immediate aftermath. They do, and it's just it's just, in principle, yes, you're correct, but it's just harsh for me to put any kind of call on that, just considering what he went through. So, but yeah, I think we both said our point of view here. Selva Kamara saying, Ali, when we can control the weather, earthquake, and other natural calamities, type 1 civilization in the near future, will the influence of religion be reduced? Yeah, we don't even have to go that far for the influence. The influence of religion is already reduced. Like, if you're talking about religious, how many people are religious, that's one thing. But if you're talking about the influence of religion, since Kepler and Galileo in the 1600s, I mean, the influence of religion has constantly been reduced. You have political systems, the most successful political systems of separation of church and state. the entire world goes by science. Anytime there's a major decision made, anything that you use on a daily basis, whether it's the electricity in your house or the plane that you fly on, the phone in your hand, it's all based on, everything is based on science. And nobody seriously prays when somebody's having a heart attack. They rush them to the hospital. I mean, the influence of religion is all but gone. All but gone. It's just that there are people who still believe in it, like an astrology thing. And it is going to wane more and more and more as people get smarter and smarter about things. Secular Rarity is asking, just got to ask, what are your thoughts on the ceasefire in Israel-Palestine and the Biden administration's pressure?
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
I honestly think like this is gonna keep happening, and I don't think like, and I think like Israel has already predicted that the PR battle in the United States is going slowly, very slowly going against it, and it will continue going against it. And it already has made plans very strategically in a way for it to become less reliant on United States, for whatever it does. Like it's really like, I do think like United States is trying to keep taking its focus out of the Middle East, even though they keep being dragged back in. But they really are trying to get out of it. But Israel, with the Abrahamic Accord and everything else, is going to prepare itself for not needing the United States backing, right? But that being said, a lot of here's an interesting thing as well, by the way. Now, for the first time, we're saying so many people in the United States, so many politicians in the United States, actively suggesting making aid to Israel conditional. These used to be political suicides, suggesting this in the United States, but now left-leaning politicians are saying it so openly in a way that it was unimaginable. Even though this is unimaginable, I don't think it will have that much of an effect on Israel's policies. And here's the thing. It could be argued, Ali, I wonder what you think about this. It could be argued that United States aid to Israel might actually have saved Palestinians more in a way, because think about it, like support, like with the aid of United States, Israel managed to build the Iron Dome, okay, and also, and without, if you look at like the number of Palestinians who Israel seems to be able to get away with killing internationally before they actually, every time they have a ceasefire, like if there is like a 10-to-1 ratio for every Israeli, how many civilians Israelis kill, if Israel didn't have a strong defense mechanism, then it would see its hand open. Like if you, instead of like 10 Israelis dying, if 100 of them died, it will see its hand open to go out and take out even more Palestinian civilians. You know what I mean? So the fact that so little Israelis die every time kind of limits how much of a free range Israel has to go in and attack Gaza, in that one sense. Another take I've seen some people say is like, you again, I'm not saying that any of this is true. I'm just like telling you what I'm hearing based on some experts and some saying, like, United States support of Israel could also be seen as a bribe, because for Israel's government to hold back. Like if United States had no support for Israel, and Israel became more and more disinterested in United States support, and not see United States as less of a support, humanitarian considerations will become even less of an issue for their government, and that would put more Palestinians at risk. So That's another way to look at it that I don't know if you agree with or not. I don't know if I agree with it or not. But what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know about the whole thing about the Iron Dome and that keeps the casualties down. I don't think a 10-to-1 ratio of deaths and
I'm just
differences is much.
hypothetical. I'm just saying
Yeah,
hypothetically.
yeah. So I think that's a very to me that's a very loose thing, and I know that you're not sure if you believe in it either. But yeah, I want to say like a couple of really quick things about this. Well, I guess I'm not going to say really quick, but they're going to be relatively quick. The Israel is a partisan issue in the U.S. now. It didn't used to be.
Wait, can I address something in live chat? Somebody doesn't understand what I'm saying. Somebody's saying if United States didn't support Israel, Israel wouldn't exist. To your argument, so your argument is moot. God damn it! I'm talking about now. I'm talking about right now, the continuous support. I'm not talking about the foundations of Israel. God damn it. Anyways, go on. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So I was saying that Israel is a partisan issue in the United States now. Okay. So it's the Democrats disproportionately, they vote for. The Democrats have an issue with Israel. They're the ones who called them out, and it didn't used to be that way. Everybody was Republicans, Democrats. Everybody had bipartisan support, and then Netanyahu, for some reason, decided to pitch to the Republicans and have that support to just one party. And that's an issue. And the problem is the party that he kowtowed to, which is the Republicans, are a solid minority in the United States. They're a solid minority. Why are they a solid minority? Everything that they need to get elected, Republicans, the Electoral College is a non-democratic system. The Senate is, we're 52% of the population represented by 18% of the senators. It's an anti-democratic system. The Supreme Court, 5 of 9 justices appointed by people who didn't win the popular vote, anti-democratic, gerrymandering, all these. I mean, these are the things that Republicans have to rely on to get elected. Nobody even looks at the popular vote or majority opinion anymore. And these are the people who still support them. So now, as evangelical support for Israel or evangelical population or evangelical influence wanes, that's the main support for Israel that Israel gets. And as more and more American Jews split off from Israel because they just don't see eye to eye anymore, the U.S. diaspora of Jewish people are actually a lot of them that they're just not into Netanyahu. They're not into what Israel is doing. There's a growing difference between the two. The Biden administration just doesn't have, or the U.S. in general, will not have the kind of strategic interest or the motivation to provide aid to Israel as they did before, right? So that's what I think about Biden administration pressure. As far as the ceasefire goes, ceasefire is a good thing, but it's not going to last. The same thing. It's going to happen 5 years from now, and 5 years after that. This has been going on for 73 years. It's going to continue to happen. It's not going to end. So
Israel is going to be completely capable of making its own weapons,
right?
Very advanced weapons. It's a very entrepreneurial country, very high tech. It might, without U.S. aid, Israel's policies are not going to change.
The policies aren't going to change, but it is going to become, as far as PR and allies and everything goes, it is headed towards like being a pariah. It already is kind of.
It's going to make it. It's going to embolden it even more. It is that I agree with you, but it's not going to affect their behavior in a way to become more concerned with humanitarian issues. It's going to make them less concerned.
Well, a lot of it has to do with the leadership. Like right now, what happened
they have been rewarded, like with all the more they have been rewarded for taking a harsher. Both Hamas and Likud have, every time they taken a harsher stance against their opposition, their electorates, yes, they have been rewarding them. So they are responding more to internal, the people within Palestine and Israel more than outside, and that is.
I don't fully agree with that. I think what was happening right now is Netanyahu was basically, his leadership was being threatened. There was an election that was about to happen where there was going to be a liberal party, a secular party that was going to join forces with the first like proper Arab Islamic party, Islamist, like political Islam party. There was going to be a coalition there, and that's when all of this stuff broke out. So I think that
Ali, you're missing your timelines. Even before all of this stuff happened, that broke apart. That broke apart. Why? Because all the right-wing leaning parties in Israel signaled to Netanyahu that this would, if you hold on, let me finish. If you deal with these, if you bring these Arabs and make a coalition with them, that will be the end of you. That's why I'm saying that it's not external forces that drives Likud. It's internal forces that is driving Likud, right?
All right. Yeah.
So the mere attempt of Netanyahu to make a coalition with some of the Arabs was completely crushed by the right-leaning, even more right-leaning parties than him, right? So then Likud. So that's why I'm saying, like, yeah, international pressure is going to embolden the Israeli population even more, that the world is against us, so we need to take care of this ourselves. So yeah.
All right. Sean A is saying, Armin, what are your main arguments that Muhammad did not exist?
Again, I have a problem with the question. Every time I want to answer a question, I have to fix a question before I can even answer it. This question makes the assumption that I think Muhammad did not exist, okay? So on the question of whether Muhammad existed or not, I know this might seem pedantic, okay? However, I have to ask, what do you mean by Muhammad? Okay? Because if by Muhammad you mean there was some dude that united the Arabs and made a tribe out of it and united them again around an ideology that was Abrahamic in nature, maybe not as Islam as we know it today, but Abrahamic in nature, and he unified them and got them to invade Jerusalem, right? Was there a guy there? Evidence seems to suggest, like, yes, there was a dude. There was a guy. There was a man, okay? Was his name Muhammad? We don't know if his name was Muhammad or if it was an honorary title that was Muhammad, okay? Maybe his name was Muhammad. It's possible that his name, that was like an adjective or something, okay? And it's possible that, well, actually, no. What I think did not exist, is the Muhammad as we know him by the Hadith and the Sunnah, and the Sirah. By the Sunnah and the Sirah. Okay, so Hadith all the Hadith collections and the Sirah collections. I don't think a lot of it actually represents that man. Okay, it's almost beyond reasonable doubt that most of the stories we know about Muhammad were created for political purposes originally by the Umayyad dynasty and eventually remade by the Abbasid dynasty. And also we know that Muhammad eventually became a filler for what was supposed to be Jesus. I'm not going to get into details. What is the main arguments? The fact that the giant gap between when these stories were canonized and when Muhammad's alleged death is, and what we know about oral tradition and the unreliability on it, and the fact that the level of detail that we know about Muhammad makes it, a lot of Muslims claim that gives them more reason to believe that this is true. Actually, given that what you know about oral tradition, you would have to, that makes it more certain that these are all made up, because there's no way you could have no that level of detail about Muhammad.
Yeah.
Anyways,
there's a couple of, I think with the tagging thing, we're missing some of the Facebook questions, so I'll just point out some of them. I think Karen Lumley Kerr. Hey, Karen, how's it going? So, okay, hey. Karen and I, by the way, we have the same birthday, and I'm not going to get into. I don't know how much she wants.
Oh, you want to cut me off because I'm going too long to talk about that? You have similar birthdays.
This is way more important. It's more interesting. Me, Karen, and Scary Spice from the Spice Girls are all born on the same day. Karen is saying, I don't think it's immoral to bring a Downs baby into this world. However, I do think shaming women who choose not to is not the answer. Down syndrome have lots of heart issues when they have severe cases. And yeah, Karen, I agree with you. Right now, I feel a little, because Armin doesn't have the knowledge on this to counter what we're saying. If he wants to counter it, I don't know if he wants to or not. But I agree. That's the point I was getting to. There's another question I'm just going to address because a lot of people have been asking me because I've got the live stream coming up on divorce dads. Fizzy Soda asked, Ali Rizvi, just wondering, did you get divorced? Yes, quite a while ago. So, yeah, and everything's good. Let's move on. Next question. Chihaya Ayase is asking, Ali and Armin, back in March, you promised to do a live stream for closeted ex-Muslims who desire financial and personal freedom from abusive families. Do you plan to do it or have I missed it? Yes, thanks for reminding us. We do plan to do it. So yes, I am going to do it. I have a whole list of things that we have to do, and it's just a matter of a lot of things that we're focusing on right now are geopolitical, so they're sort of time sensitive in terms of certain events happen, we do them. But yes, this is definitely an episode that we need to do.
Okay, there's another one. Yeah.
Okay, Gossam is saying, hey Armin, please turn that little skull CW face to face with the camera.
I like the side view better. And also, by the way, that skull is the point of that skull is Memento Mori. I hope people know what I'm referring to.
No, nobody knows that, Armin. You have to explain it.
No, I'm not gonna.
Who's gonna know what Memento Mori is? What are you saying?
People know.
Okay, Fizzy Soda is saying, Ali, is medical school worth it? Finished first year, having second thoughts, thinking about dropping due to the long, strenuous journey in the U.S. I left clinical medicine to I still work as an MD, but I work in medical communications now. There's many things you can do. There's a huge opportunity cost to it. It has become very, very bureaucratic. There's a lot of red tape. There are many, many people I know who are dropping out of medical school. The only thing I'm going to say, if you're not liking it after the first year, and you don't feel like you want to continue, if you're having second thoughts, get out now. It's a huge time commitment. You're going to spend more time at your work, twice as much time as you will with your partner or your children or your family. If you don't like it now, you're not going to like it later. That's all I'll tell you. And drop out. And there's many things. You might like science. I got to say one more thing about this. It's really important. Doing science and doing medicine are two different things. Science is something that's more creative. You create protocols. In medicine, you follow protocols. In science, you can go off on tangents and make discoveries, right? In medicine, when you're doing heart surgery, you can't go off on tangents. Oh, I wonder what would happen if I did this to this artery. You're going to get sued or you're going to lose your license. You can't, it doesn't have the same kind of creativity with certain exceptions. So, so it depends on why you get into it. But if you don't like it now, get out now. Dirty Dancer saying banana hammocks are against atheist principles. Banana hammocks against, yes. It's a source Speedos, for fuck's sakes. All right. Sarah, how was y'all's deconversion as ex-Shias different from those of ex-Sunnis? Could be wrong, but I think most of the weird hadiths about the Prophet are from Sunni sources. That's actually kind of true, I gotta admit. The Sunnis have some like fucking insane hadiths.
I think we should get into more Shia hadiths because we also had like some crazy hadiths.
We had some crazy stuff, but it wasn't as. Come on, like it's just. I mean, look, listen.
I have some stuff that I can. There are some Shia hadiths that I can't even mention right now.
Yeah, no, we're talking about the comparison. Like, there's no comparison. Like, there's insane, ridiculous.
We have like 12 imams that all have hadiths. There's like crazy amount of volume that
there's a lot, but it just there's nothing that stands out as much as some of the idiocy that you see in Bukhari and Herrera and everything like that. It's just not the same.
I think we should. By the way, Atheist Prophet, I just noticed it's in the live chat. Atheist Prophet, can you do a show dedicated to Shia hadith?
That would be great.
That would be great if Atheist Prophet does a video on that. All right.
Okay, so
this one.
So again,
we already highlight that here.
Right. So Goddess Katie is saying, do you think a lot of Shias in some countries like India who vote for the anti-Muslim far right have Stockholm syndrome, or is it anti-Sunni sentiments? So Shias in countries like India who vote for the anti-Muslim far right.
Katie, you should be telling us that. You know more about India than us.
But
let me give you. I know Katie doesn't mean it like this, but guys, just because we are ex-Muslim, that doesn't mean that we could like read the minds of all Muslims. Like we don't have like this. Like,
most of them, yes. Most of their minds we can read.
Some of them
But
are off the network and we can't like reach out. Like, yeah, but I don't know.
I think it's but this is actually a good point because this is what I call the Imam Tawhidi syndrome. You know, the Imam Tawhidi syndrome. He's a
Oh yeah.
hardcore Shia, right? And he just does not like Sunnis. And remember he was talking to Candace Owens, and he convinced her that Imam Hussein, was the original like reformer and
Yeah,
all that stuff.
actually, you know what? You're right. Katie might have a point here.
It is. That's why
Yeah,
people do it.
because the Shia, actually, you know what, Katie, you're it's a good hype. Okay, so we don't have any proof for this, so take it with like 5 or 6 grain of salt. But it's not a theory, it's a good hypothesis, because a lot of Shias think that the Sunnis are the radical, crazy people who are responsible for ISIS and for Daesh and Al Qaeda and all that. Like, I shouldn't say these words, but and they think like anybody who is the Shias think that the people who are like what they refer to as Islamophobes, the Shias are like, yes, you guys have a point. These people are crazy. And you know who was fighting against them? Hussein. Hussein was the freedom fighter who was fighting against these crazy people who are radicals, right? So some of these Shias, they're like trying to like go to so-called Islamophobes and be like, guys, we could unite. You guys, you think Islam has a problem? We agree. It's the Sunnis, right? So yeah.
And it's not like the Sunnis aren't allying themselves, like the Saudi Arabia is allying themselves with the Jews to like go against like the Shias. Like it is really funny. Like it is kind of fun. Qasim is saying, "Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein."
Wait, we had an apostate prophet question here.
It was just a comment.
No, it was a question. No, it was a comment later. Oh, here, there we go. No, lost it. Hold on, one second. There we go. Found it.
Pasta Prophet saying, do you think the Illuminati is behind the divorce of Kim Kardashian and Kanye West? No, I think it's Armin Navabi. It's Armin Navabi. He did it.
All right.
Kim met Armin and could never go back.
All right. Next question.
Shia is saying, targeting Israel is right, but leaving out Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Pakistan, China, Russia, and India is hypocrisy on steroids. Exactly. That's right.
Yeah, good. I like this take. Right. I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Let's keep going. Don't forget the Facebook ones. Where are you right now?
Okay. Yeah, hold on. That was a question. That's not a question. That's a comment. Guys, I'm seeing so many comments here. There's a Facebook one.
Okay, Naeem Rahim. Oh, I know Naeem and I went to med school together. In retrospect, do you believe that atheism brought a certain amount of peace or comfort for you guys in the long run? I understand life is much more complicated than that, but religious folks always have that to fall back on. How do you deal with the randomness of life? Naeem, that's actually a really good question. It has a very long answer. In fact, like I think my book addresses all of these are the things that I talked about. I think Armin also talked about this in his book. As well, but I'll tell you, yes, it did. It kind of frees you up. I'll put this very simply. There is a oh, thank you. That's my book. For those of you watching, Armin's holding up my book, The Atheist Muslim. Thank you, Armin. I appreciate it. There was when I was growing up, there was a difference. There were things that were sinful and not sinful, reward and sin. There was that, and then there was right and wrong. The right and wrong was my sort of inner compass, what I thought was right and wrong. And what we got secondhand from these books and these scriptures was what will get you reward and what is sinful. And as I grew older and as I became more educated, there were contradictions between these two. And the contradictions just grew. And eventually I had to choose one. I was like, am I going to go with what's going to get me to heaven or hell? Or I'm going to go with what I feel is right or wrong. And what I felt was right and wrong won out eventually in the end. And that brings you peace because then everything is consistent. And when you have consistency, you have contentment. That's how it worked for me.
So for me, I actually had to, as an atheist, try to learn the peace and comfort that you're referring to, that religion brings to people, because I don't have any experience with religion bringing peace and comfort to my life. When I was religious, it was only a source, like it was a source of stress and shame and disgust and humiliation and lack of worthiness. and complete disgust with my desires and everything, right? And about my failures to be worthy of God, on all of that. Those are the feelings that I associate with religion. And actually, those are proper views to have, because you are like the desires that you have are supposed to be, you understand that God sees them and they're disgusting and they're worthy of shame. But at the same time, I didn't make the mistake that many atheists make when it comes to saying, like, okay, I did not feel any peace and comfort from religion, therefore religion doesn't bring people peace and comfort. Like, I didn't use my personal experience as a way to have this understanding that religion is not a source of peace and comfort. Okay, my personal experience is that atheism was very liberating. The problem with atheism was that I had a very personal connection with God as my only friend, and losing that connection was very difficult. But it was extremely liberating to be an atheist. However, because I don't use my personal experience as a way to come up with a general view on religion, I, as an atheist activist and an anti-atheist activist, had to go and try to understand and learn rather than just deny the peace and comfort that religion brings, and to see what is it and where is the source of it. It's hard to understand it when you've never experienced it yourself, but I did try my best.
Yeah.
All right.
This should be, I think that would be a good sort of overall an episode topic too, to go through those things. Where do you get the piecing? Because it's one of the most common questions, by far one of the most common questions that we get. Fizzy Soda is saying, what in your opinion is the best Israel-Palestine solution? One state, two state? I mean, Hamas, some local Muslim extremist elements don't recognize Israel's right to exist, right? Confused ex-Muslim. You want to go first?
All right, so
here we go. Quickly, Armin, quickly. We've got 20 minutes. Please.
No, I can't. Okay, so here's the thing. It really depends on what you mean by solution. You mean the solution. There's 3 different ways you could answer this. Can we go back in time and fix things, or as of things are right now? And as of things that right now, if what we're saying would actually take, people would do it, like, because I have some solutions that I think would work, but it's not, my solutions are not really a solution when nobody's going to do them, right? So they're not technically solutions, right? I don't think, based on what people will actually do, I don't think there's a solution. I think it's going to be miserable for a very, very long time, until a solution is forced upon the situation, because the situation cannot go forever. There is no solution, because the solutions that I have is things that Israelis and Palestinians will never do based on the current conditions, right? I mean, the best solution was the 2-state solution, right? And I know a lot of people are like, no, the 2-state solution is like giving into the Israelis, and this is not their land. Nobody gives a crap. They do give a crap. Nobody should give a crap about who was here first, okay? It doesn't matter. We were here 3,000 years ago. Well, no, that's too old, like too far back. We were here 100 years ago, and this was like, you just came from Europe. It doesn't matter. The people, once you go past one generation, the people who are born here, you cannot hold them responsible for who came here for what reason. Okay, they are
I just
born
want to
there.
emphatically interrupt and say yes, absolutely. This is one thing that I wrote about too. Yeah, go ahead.
One generation passes, it really doesn't matter what the history of it is. The people are there. You have to deal with them. You can't kick them out. The Palestinians who are there, they're there. The Israelis who are there, they're there. You have to deal with it. And given that situation, here's the thing: I would prefer a 1-state solution. But the thing is that the hate and the racism and the dogmatic, like, religious ideology has corrupted the minds of Israelis and Palestinians so much that the 1-state solution is not going to be it's going to be very ugly. Okay, it's going to be very ugly. Okay, the ideal situation would have been a two-state solution. I don't like the two-state solution because that would be like promotions of like separating people based on race and religion, which is nonsense. But the thing is that what do you do when people hate each other so much? Then the two-state solution would have been the most ideal situation, given that these people hate each other so much. But the two-state solution is not possible thanks to people like Netanyahu with all the settlements. Thank you very much. So Netanyahu is basically people like Netanyahu who has forced the one-state solution on their own country, which is eventually going to
and Israel as a Jewish state,
as a Jewish
democratic state.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, the thing, like Israelis who fear Hamas and Hezbollah and the Islamic Republic of Iran because they think that the greatest threats to Israel is a Jewish state. I'm sorry, none of those things are at all a threat to Israel, to the existence of Israel as a Jewish state. It was the call is coming from inside the house. It was Likud. Likud has made the one-state solution at some point inevitable, and it's not going to be pretty. So it's going to be forced on Israel, and it's going to be a very ugly process, in my opinion. So that's what I think. What you want to answer as well?
Yeah, everything that you said. You're right. The ideal thing, it should be one state because religion is a really dumb reason to have any kind of state. Like it's just a really dumb reason. There's no such thing as everybody believes in. You should believe in the right of Israel to exist. But then, what do you mean by Israel's right to exist? Does that mean they have the right to militarily occupy people against their will? Of course, it doesn't. Whenever people are saying, "Oh, you don't believe in the right of Israel to exist," we just don't believe in their right to occupy people against their will. That's what it is. The settlement, everything Armin said. I'm not going to expand on it too much. Yes, there should be a two-state solution. I don't think it's going to happen. I wish that there were two secular states and they could agree on things, but it's not going to happen. Ultimately, this is going to end with Israel either having to be a Jewish state or a democracy, but it's not going to be both. And it's going to be a pariah. And all of those things that people said.
It cannot remain a Jewish state because there would mean two-tier citizenship with Arabs having being the lesser citizens. If they know this.
That is actually the textbook definition of apartheid, and people don't like using that word. It's a very, very loaded word to use for that reason. But the thing is, even if you define it very strictly and you don't think it's there, that's where it's going to end up. It will be all of those people who are saying that it's an apartheid state. They're eventually going to be right when that happens. And it's going to be because of Likud and Netanyahu and secondarily Hamas.
But that's not going to last. Eventually, if you look at the population between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea, there are more Arabs than Jews, right? And eventually, these people need to have equal rights. If you want to have if the solution is a one-state solution, and Israel will become an Arab country. However, I think these people, their plan is to make the situation so horrible, living conditions so horrible, that I think their only solution to keeping it a Jewish state is by making the Arabs migrate out, by giving them bad living conditions.
Do you think that's intentional? Because honestly, it's not like the surrounding Arab countries are known for taking in refugees. I mean, Egypt has. Remember again, this can't be emphasized more enough. Egypt has control of the southern border of Gaza. Egypt could open up that border and let all of the Gaza people in.
It might not be the Arab countries. It might be as more of these Western countries become like, oh, we're pro-Palestine, Israel's going to be like, oh, you are pro-Palestine? Well, take them.
No, that's not going to. That ship has sailed. I mean, that's why you have Brexit today. I mean, that is not happening again.
We'll see.
It's not happening again.
We'll see. All right.
Yeah. Mirzallah is saying, secular jihadists, if Hamas is a terrorist organization while being in the government, so is Netanyahu's government a state-sponsored terrorist party. I have trouble with the word terrorism when there's a military occupation, when there's a secular.
Using that word so much, YouTube is sensitive.
Oh, sorry. So I have trouble with this word, I guess, that we just talked about. When it's used too loosely to cover any kind of insurgency. This group, Hamas, because they have goals beyond just Palestinian liberation, which they do, they have goals to destroy the Jews. That's what their goals are. And because those are their goals, they're going to, that I think qualifies as terrorism. But most Palestinians, the T word.
Okay.
most Palestinians, like the majority of them who voted for Hamas for whatever reason, because there were few choices, because there were social services, or because they had somebody who died and they thought that, okay, these are the only people who are going to put up a fight. Like, most of these people they're not. They're occupied. They're occupied against their will, and you can call them insurgents but that's the furthest you can go. So
Okay,
this is just a loaded word. I don't like using it, whether it's state sponsored or anything.
I don't mind using it. Here's the thing, guys. This is just semantics, okay? Using this word doesn't make somebody worse or better, okay? You could based on if you are not an official state and recognized as an official state, then you could technically be what Mir Jalal is saying, okay? That doesn't make you worse, but you could be an official state and do a lot more human rights violations, but because you're an official state, you're technically not that word, okay? But again, a lot of people think like because you're not that word, that means like that what you're doing is not as bad. It could be worse. You could be, this is why, for example, Iran's government is called a state sponsor of terror, not an actual T-word state, because they're a state. They call them a sponsor of it, right? So this is not like excusing them. This is not like, oh, if we don't call you that means like, oh, you're not that bad. You could be worse than that. This is just semantics. Like why, instead of like arguing about definitions of whether or not technically you are this or that, why didn't you just argue about the level of harm these people are doing, right? So Netanyahu's government is doing this harm, and that harm. We could identify it. What is it? Like, you keep arguing over semantics and whether or not something fits the definition or not. We can just keep highlighting. I mean, actually, to argue against myself, some people say like, no, once you actually manage to label somebody as this, then it's easier to take actions. So, for example, I could argue, why does it matter if Israel is an apartheid state or not? That's like you're arguing over definitions where we know that they're doing this and this and this and wrong. Who cares about whether or not it applies apartheid stance or not? But then people could argue against me. No, it does matter, because once it's recognized as an apartheid state, it becomes easier to take actions against these human rights violations, right? But the thing is, if you're going for labels, then because Israel is an official state, you're going to have less of a chance using the T word, okay, to stick as a definition. Hamas is not recognized as an official state by the international community, so they do get the T word as a label. So if you want to actually like use labels that might actually has a chance of sticking to be able to get some actions moving, maybe go with apartheid. I don't even know what the technical definition of apartheid is, so I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I know it has a higher chance of sticking than the T word. Okay,
that's actually a really good point. That's a great point. Like, if you want to use a T word and you want to pin it to Israel, then it's not going to work, because most people are going to pin that to Hamas, right? If you are on depending on what side you're on. But yeah, you're right. If you use the word apartheid, that's going to stick it to it. Yeah, you're right. That's actually really I never thought of it that way. Occasionally, you come up with gems. Music
occasionally,
guy. I know. I knew that would get. So occasionally is like Armin's apartheid, right? That's what gets him. Triggers. The music guy is saying you could do a whole stream on this Mufti Abu Layth subject. What do you think about Muhammad Hijab being blamed for this attack? I think we kind of covered this, so let's really quickly, Armin, one sentence.
I don't know how much like the implication. I haven't looked into the details of Muhammad Hijab's roles. I'm hoping that either Apostate Prophet or Harris Sultan is going to go over the details for us and how they were involved, so that maybe I could learn from watching them.
All right. Chihaya is saying, I lean towards Palestine myself, but I absolutely hate what the mob did to Mufti Abu Layth's family. I loathe Israel as they target both Muslims and Christians in Gaza and the West Bank.
That's a comment, not a question. Okay.
Yeah.
Mars, hey.
Mars, how's it going? Hi, fellas. Have you guys considered jumping on Clubhouse and using it to extend your platform? I have it, but I don't know how to. Like, I haven't really gotten into it. There's so many things to get into. I still don't know how Twitch works, Armin.
Okay, I'm trying to increase my reading time, so I don't want to get on more platforms.
Yeah, it's just it does take away from a lot of things, Mars. So let's see. Hopefully, we're not even on Instagram,
But
TikTok.
my Atheist Republic Persian is active on Clubhouse without my involvement. So Atheist Republic is on Clubhouse, the Persian version of it. I think we're going to make an English version of it as well at some point, and I'm not going to be there. I think we're just going to record the conversations and on Clubhouse and then put it on YouTube, maybe something like that. Like any other people will be debating, and they will just bring it on, broadcast it on our YouTube channel. Cool.
Mir Secular Jihadists, the most powerful religious music or song that still gives you goosebumps while being an atheist. Ooh, where do I start? I have two. Right.
Oh, go on. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're both Pakistani song. One is like there are two songs by Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, who used to do Qawwali. Qawwali is like a religious form of mystical, Sufi style music. And well, I'll tell them what it is for all the Desis who are listening to this. Ye Jo Halka Halka Surur and Gorak Danda, those two. And then there's a Noha, like in Muharram, they have these morning things that you beat your chest to and you self-flagellate to. And there's a Punjabi one called Jekadi San Tera Ghazi Prana Marta. That means, if Hussein, your brother, hadn't died, and then it goes on, talks about things. This guy just got this melody that is just goosebumpy and just super awesome and raw. That's what I would say.
And mine is the Red Darwish. Red Darwish. Darwish is like a Persian Sufi kind of
whirling dervishes. Yeah.
Yeah. So a Red Darwish, like by Ghazal Shakiri, I think her name is a Persian song, and it's not at all known. It's like a secret song. It's a Persian song that not at all famous. Not at all famous. Like the most views I've ever got, it was 11,000. It's like this YouTube video, and it's about this. It's a woman singing it, but it's about this dervish that doesn't mention God, but once you listen to the lyrics, you can tell that she's talking to God, and she's talking about the superiority of man's domination over nature compared to God's domination over nature. It's a challenge to God. It's so beautiful. I don't know. I don't know why it's not so famous. It should become famous. But yeah.
All right.
I could play it here.
Let's go. We've got 8 more minutes.
What is this?
Secular Rarity saying, I'm not sure I agree that is what will happen, Armin, but I absolutely think it is something to consider as the U.S. goes forward with the pressure. I think they're talking about the Israel thing. That's just a comment. It's not a question. So
yep. Okay, here.
Let's move on. Mir is saying, did you see the viral Russian army versus U.S. army ad? Do you think wokeness is making U.S. military weak and overall weakening USA's hegemony in the world? So I haven't seen this ad, but I know Ted Cruz put up this thing, and he was just basically insulting the U.S. military for being so weak and woke while the Russian army is doing really, really well.
Oh my God, guys, the U.S. Army is such a powerful beast. A bunch of people being woke is not going to have an impact on how many times they could take out 12 planet Earths at the same time.
Yeah.
But there is no it's such as the U.S. military is such as the procedures and the systems and all the things that are in place. It's so well run and so high tech, and that the mere opinions of the political ideologies of a bunch of soldiers who are pushing the buttons is not going to have that much of an impact of how fast they could just annihilate half of the planet within an instant notice. Honestly, the people who are saying this, I don't know, this is just Russia and China virtue signaling about being more manly because they're so pathetically weaker compared to United States Army.
Yeah.
That's oh, look at us, we're manly, and these people are letting trans people in their army, and their soldiers have pink ribbons and stuff. Okay, sure,
fight us.
Have your manly men But you're not gonna be able to stand up against the U.S. Army. There's no chance. You don't have any chance against the U.S. Army.
I got two quick things to say on this. The first one is that I prefer the term dick waving to virtue signaling. I don't know why dick waving got replaced by virtue signaling. I don't know what people's problem is. And the second thing is the take home message from this is it's now cool for Republicans to crap on the U.S. military, which is exactly what Ted Cruz did. Well, that was a funny sort of change of events. But
I want to make an ad where like Russian, like they're like Russian men and like with big muscles and manly. They come with the like, we're so powerful, and then they have the Chinese like powerful like the soldiers come and they're all shouting and they're like testosterone through the roof and everything. And then we have like this, I don't know, like we show like
it's nice, effeminate.
Yeah, very like if somebody with a pink
non-binary
goes and like comes like and like hops around the room and just presses a button and just like boom.
Like, everybody's gone.
Like, okay, sure. Like we're so powerful that we could have like a 18-year-old girl with all our machinery just take you all out. That's how powerful we are. We don't need manly man.
Manly man. Shia is saying Israel already has quite some capability in cyber and electronic warfare, not to the level of US or China, but still good enough to repel unfriendly parties in the neighborhood. Yeah, I think the cyber electronic is really the next thing that's going to take off. But honestly, like at this point, I know there's been some cyber attacks, electronic stuff, but it seems like a little bit. It doesn't seem like the devastating thing that it was once predicted to be. But again, I'm speaking too soon.
No,
it really doesn't.
Managed to take out Natanz without even going. Like, did you see what they did?
I'm not saying that they haven't done anything. I know that it's done stuff, but it hasn't done like remember, it's sort of the Y2K thing. Everything's going to shut down, then nothing happens. It's like that. There is stuff that's happening.
Though, they did do that in Natanz and in Iran. Like they managed to actually make Iran's nuclear facility explode with a virus. That's amazing. That's pretty impressive.
It is, but like bringing the world to a standstill, the way they predicted stuff. I mean, they also took down Seth Rogen's interview movie.
If you're an idiot, if you have like a sci-fi fantasy about how technology works, then looking at what Israel can do, that's very disappointing. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you have a realistic view of what technology can do, then and if you look at what Israel has done, they're like, it's mind blowing, right?
Yeah.
Compared to Fantasyland, they're very weak. But compared to real world, they're like, oh my god, how is that possible?
Yeah, like enduring dystopias just don't happen in real life. Enduring dystopias that are wider than just basically a small region or something like that. Just that doesn't happen in real life. Okay, let's go.
But that's not the question. The question is like, are they really? Do they have?
I know. I was saying that.
Yeah, their capacity is yeah. But they do. Yeah, they seem to be very good at it.
Okay, let's do two more questions. Qasim is saying, don't prejudge him. He may have meant Muhammad Hijab.
Oh, did Muhammad Hijab exist? Okay. Yeah. Wow, we have so many more questions that we didn't get to.
We do. Yeah, I know. Sorry about that, everybody. Dirty Dancer is saying, has any of the right-wing craziness or Q infected Canada? We do have in Ontario here, our largest province, we do have a Trumpian style premier, Doug Ford, who is right now very unpopular because of COVID. Like a lot of people, the premier is like the equivalent of a governor in a U.S. state, and he's pretty conservative. And a lot of people really liked him in the early days because we thought he was handling everything well, and then everything went south. But yeah,
let's do Bulbul.
But no, QAnon not to the extent. We're pretty educated. Bulbul is saying, how popular are Jewish ultra-Orthodox groups in Israel? I saw a video.
Finish it.
I saw a video on Lahava, and those dudes sound like love jihad activists. Cringe.
Unfortunately, Bulbul, they're becoming a bigger and bigger deal, not just population-wise. They have a lot more. So, right now in Israel, secular Jews, when I say secular Jews, I mean Jewish from ethnicity, not religious. They are a majority in Israel compared to ultra-Orthodox Jews. But the ultra-Orthodox Jewish people have a lot more kids than secular Jews, and their percentage of population is predicted to even become higher than the entire Arab population in Israel. So it's growing very, very fast, and they are extremely strategic, both politically and the way that they use their kids to change the demographics in Israel. When I was in Israel, I knew that they actually go actively build kindergartens in the heart of the most secular neighborhoods in Tel Aviv, just to make it more convenient for secular parents to put their kids into religious, kindergartens. Like, they are so strategic, right? So they're making more babies. They're becoming a lot more influential in the government. They're becoming a lot more influential in the army, and people underestimate this. More importantly, they're becoming a lot more influential in the school system, and that's the future of Israel. And it doesn't look very good, and I'm really scared. Again, the greatest enemy, the greatest threat to Israel right now is ultra Orthodox Judaism and far right nationalism, way, way more than Islam, or is a threat to Israel, way more than Hamas, way more than Hezbollah, way more than Islamic.
Yeah.
Like, guys, it doesn't look good. It looks horrible. I'm scared for Israel.
The next time
Again,
someone tells you it's not a religious conflict, remember, the biggest problem is coming from the religious part of the conflict.
Right. When I say Israel has a right to defend itself, what I actually really mean is to defend itself against the enemy within. The enemy within. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So let's. I think let's wrap it up. You want to do one last one and then let's go.
Yeah, I don't know what recommendations you're talking about in Israel.
Oh, we now do recommendations for the month.
Oh, okay.
Armin, any book? Name one book or movie or TV show or something that you've seen that you really liked.
I want to recommend the Great Courses, okay? Because I used to take their courses only on Audible, because I don't know, for some reason, every time I take the Great Courses, looked at the Great Courses, I saw that the courses was like $200, $300 each. I was like, I'm not going to pay that. I'm just going to listen to the Great Courses on Audible instead of on their own website, buying it on their own website. But I really wish I could afford their courses, because the visuals is really helps with the audio, right? So right now, when I'm on my spinning bike, I am taking the Great Courses. I just noticed recently that they have Great Courses Plus, which is like $20 a month, I think, that you get access to all the courses of Great Courses for just like $20 a month, I think. But it's like crazy. Like, why would anybody just buy one of their courses when you get unlimited access to all of their courses with this monthly membership? So I've got that, and I'm loving it. Every time I'm on my spinning bike, I'm listening, I'm taking one of these courses. Sometimes I watch one of them with Suze. Sometimes when I'm on my spinning bike, I'm watching another one. I'm taking courses on Judaism, early history of Judaism and Christianity. I love it so much. I took a course on Hinduism. It's amazing. And also, they're rebranding themselves to compete with the Curiosity Stream. So Great Courses soon will be rebranded as a Wondrous or something like that, because right now most of their courses it's a format of a lecture. But I think they're seeing that how much Curiosity Stream is having success with more documentaries. There, Curiosity Stream's content is less intellectual than Great Courses, but it's a lot cheaper as well. It's like $2 or $3 a month. But I like to get the intellectual level of Great Courses, but with the visuals of Curiosity Stream. If that combination, if Great Courses moves in that direction, that would be amazing as well. So I'm looking forward to see what they're going to come up with. But anyways, that was my
for me, it's again, I have another TV show. I've been watching a lot of I've developed a man crush on Billy Bob Thornton. I always did have one, but I just think he's a phenomenal actor. So I watched the first season of Fargo, which many of you have probably seen, and the series Goliath. Goliath is just a very cool series. So it's something that I've been watching that's cool. I did on the occasion of Chris Cornell of Soundgarden, his death anniversary, his 4th death anniversary. He took his own life 4 years ago, 2017, this month. I have done with a friend of mine in Pakistan a acoustic guitar and tabla version of a song called Like Suicide that he wrote with Soundgarden, recorded with Soundgarden. It's from the Super Unknown album. We're putting that out in a couple of days. If you go to my Facebook page or my Twitter feed, we've put out a teaser for what it sounds like. I think it sounds really cool, and I think it's going to be awesome when it comes out. So look out for that. And then we're going to be working on more original music too. But that's it, guys.
Yeah.
If you like what you hear...
if you want to join more live streams with us, we do more of these with our patrons, and as a patron, because there's less people in the live stream, we get to answer more. Like we guarantee that your questions will be answered. As a patron, again, you get to send your questions ahead of time. Like so even if you can't join us on stream, we collect your questions ahead of time, and we make sure that your question gets answered even if you're not here. So check the link in the description, become a patron. Oh, Secular Rarity is saying great stream. Thank you, Secular
Yeah, thank you
Rarity.
very much. We've done a lot of
Oh,
we've done a lot on Iran. We've done a lot on Saudi Arabia. We just recently did an episode with Harris Sultan on Pakistan
ooh, yes,
and everything
that
that's
was good.
happening there. We've done anti-wokeness versus wokeness. We've had a lot of really interesting conversations here, and some of them have gotten more heated than not. So anyway, you want to hear this stuff again? Patreon.com/SJME. You can join for as little as $1 a month. So do check it out. But for now,
Link in the description.
we
And
got to run.
subscribe to our YouTube. Yes.
Subscribe
Bye.
and just absolutely assault that bell, the subscribe button and the bell. Don't ask for consent.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Be best,
Bye.
everybody. Hashtag.
Be best. Be
Remember.
best. Bye.